Hello again, and thanks for listening to the Fun Fans podcast, the first ever video version of the podcast. So now you can put the faces with the voices, right?
That's right. And just before we get started, I just want everybody to know the camera adds 10 pounds.
At least,
Yes.
at least.
And it takes hair off your head.
That's why I wore a hat for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah. So hope we don't lose any listeners now that we've shown our ugly mugs. But anyway, we do appreciate you guys listening. Obviously, going to say what's up to my co-host Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good. Good. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Less than 24 hours since we talked.
Yeah. Well, this is our really short, quick reaction, and this one is the reaction to the national championship game. But just in case you didn't already know, the Fun Fans podcast is now part of the Fanboys, Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. Find all of our various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and all Twitter and Facebook outlets. The Fun Fans podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans. One really cool thing is that the Fanboys, Fangirls is partnered with the Winning Edge Sports Network, and together they are supporters of Homes for Our Troops. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
So find us online and see how you could help us build homes and rebuild lives for our troops. So that's super cool. America. Woo, hashtag. All right. So reaction. Georgia put a whooping on TCU. What you got?
Well, my initial reaction was I was going to go to sleep. All right. So I have two TVs in my cave, and the smaller TV had the game on it, and the larger TV I was streaming whatever, watching whatever, because once it got out of hand, I just kind of wanted to leave it on because I knew we were going to record this, but at the same time, honestly, I don't remember anything after halftime because I fell asleep.
Well, that's probably okay. The only thing that happened after halftime is Georgia scored more points after scoring enough points to win the game by a lot.
The largest margin of victory in any bowl ever.
Correct. So that's pretty much the analysis. Yeah, about I think I made it halfway through the third quarter, just going to be honest. And then I put it on in the bedroom and just went away.
I was actually watching Naked and Afraid on Discovery Channel.
Gotcha.
I cannot stop watching that show when it comes on. And even the national championship doesn't trump Naked and Afraid on the Discovery Channel. So if Clemson were in it, it would, obviously.
Well, hopefully our first video podcast or vodcast or whatever didn't remind you of the show Naked and Afraid. But
no, we're not doing that.
No, we're definitely not doing that. So, okay, so my reaction, honestly, is more of a reaction to the reaction. Okay. First, we'll point out the obvious. We've already said it. Georgia looked really, really good. They definitely brought their A game, both sides of the ball. The offense was clicking. Defense had TCU's number, had them shook. I mean, they just did not look like they normally look. And that's a little bit of they didn't bring their A game, but it's really a credit to how good the Georgia defense was playing, in my opinion. It was a complete best case scenario for Georgia and the worst case scenario for TCU. There's a lot more to do with, and you know this, and I know this, some people don't seem to realize, though, is how the team shows up. It has a lot to do with the result. It also has a lot to do with the matchup. So, and I think I told you that the Georgia-Ohio State game seemed like a national championship game anyway last week. So, anyway, so that said, that's pointing out the obvious. So, the reaction to the reactions. So, by halftime, the Twitterverse was already full of TCU never belonged. And also, it's just different in the SEC. So here we go back to the Janet Jackson factor. Oh, how soon we forget. What have you done for me lately? Just a mere week ago, 8 days prior, we had two great games between those four teams. And everybody was like, oh, these were the right four teams. TCU beat Michigan, the Big Ten champions, undefeated, representatives of, what is heralded as one of the best conferences in the country. TCU beat them. So just because they kind of didn't show up, or Georgia showed up and showed out, or really a combination of both, doesn't mean they didn't belong. It's just amazing how soon people forget what's going on. And then, it's just different in the SEC part. So let's just put that in a little bit of perspective. Do you know about the bowl outcomes? And this is probably going to make all the SEC folks mad, but I'm sorry.
Actually, I don't. But look, we've said on here all year that Georgia was the best team in the country. We've made
Georgia's
no bones about that.
no bones about it. And the SEC is the best football conference in the
Not
country.
going to argue with you.
Not going to argue. However, they're not so much better than everybody else, like some folks would love to believe. If you look at the bowl results, and some people say, well, bowl games, kids opted out, kids did this, transfer portal. Well, that happened across the board. So when you look across the board, all things were equal. The SEC ended up going 6-5 with a 545 winning percentage. That doesn't sound very dominant. No. 6-5, not at all. And where does that fall? Take a wild guess where that ranks among the other conferences.
Let's go with third or fourth.
Sixth.
Oh, wow.
Sixth. The number one conference with a winning percentage in bowl games of 667 was the MAC. The Independents, assuming they're a conference, maybe we'll say the SEC was 5 if they're not a conference. Independents went 3-2 with a winning percentage of 600. The American League is 4-3 with 571. The weak ACC went 5-4 with a winning percentage of 0.556. The Big Ten went 5-4 with a winning percentage of 0.555. And then you have the SEC at 6-5, 0.545. I did not count the national championship game because that was an additional game, right, not being able to be played, not comparatively. I am a statistics guy, so if you want to do a good comparison, everything need to keep as equal as possible. So just want to throw that out there. The reaction to the reaction, even the talking heads on ESPN radio I listened to this morning, there was literally one guy that seemed like he understood, a week ago, TCU was great. We can't turn around and say they didn't deserve to be there.
Well, that's what those guys get paid to do, and that's why I really honestly don't watch. You can watch ESPN in the morning, and I have a TV here in my office, and sometimes it's on, and it's just the same show 3 different times, no matter what they name it. It's just different people on there talking about the same stuff, and it's, so that's why we tried to make our podcast a little bit different.
Just a little bit. A little bit. So, our reactions are similar to other folks' analysis. Our other podcasts only have a little bit of that, some cool stories to check out. But speaking of, we appreciate you checking us out. This one is quick and short. This is our first video, so we'll see how this goes and see what happens. Maybe there's no telling. There's just no telling. But and it's only going to get better. So we've only been doing this for 6 months, 5 months, and we're just continuing to get better. Proud to be part of the Fanboys network, and don't forget to click and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson,
we out of here and see the Tigers next year in the playoffs.
Thanks for listening. That is correct.